Shalom Akim, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Kwakadash, double honors and salutations to the elders and apostles of Great Stone who do well, and the Akim out there on the highways and byways, preaching the words of Yahweh Yahushai in sincerity, in truth, and diligence of mind. This is Brother Menashe of DC Camp with another history of Jake's oppression here in Babylon. Alright, so this is not just the only tragedy the southern kingdom of Judah experienced here in Babylon. There's so many, even till this day. So this just happened in 1968, February the 8th. You know how Jake is always want to integrate to Esau's system. So it says the Orangeburg massacre on February 8, 1968, after 3 nights of escalating racial tensions over efforts by South Carolina State College students and others to desegregate the All-Star Bowling Lane. 3 students died and 27 others were wounded on this campus. Alright, so that's one thing, that happens to Jake when they always want to integrate into Esau's system of oppression. Alright, when our people get drunk with Esau's system, this is what happens to them. They become a victim of the system. Alright, so I'll play certain portions of this video and I get the precepts, alright, to edify the Akim.
On February 8, 1968, after 3 nights of escalating racial tension over efforts by South Carolina State College students and others to desegregate the All-Star Bowling Lanes, 3 students died and 27 others were wounded on this campus. South Carolina Highway Patrolmen fired on a crowd here, killing Samuel Hammond Jr., Delano Middleton, and Henry Smith. This tragedy was the first of its kind on any American college campus.
You're never going to see a story like this, with a proper investigation as to what happened, because Esau always run away from being accountable for his actions. But you know how it is, man. It's just judgment of the Lord Yahweh Shai upon our people. Always want to strive to be a part of Esau's system, and this is what they get. They get that hot lead, they get the ridicule, and they get all types of criminal charges attached to them, right? So the best thing Jake could do is just hope on the Lord Yahweh Shai and stick with the gospel of the Lord, man. Because it's better to suffer for preaching the gospel of the Lord Yahweh Shai, for having faith in the Lord Yahweh Shai, than to be striving for this nonsense, what our people call civil rights, all right? Because it's just, this carrot and stick ideology of Esau, man, to make our people think that they belong here in America, to make their lives better, to think that they could make a difference here. But no, we just here to serve captivity and move on. Alright, so I get a quick precept here. This is from the book of Acts chapter 5. I'm going to start from verse 34. Alright, so it said, then stood up one in the council, a Pharisee named Gamaliel, a doctor of the law, had a reputation among all the people, and commanded to put the apostles forth a little space. All right. And said unto them, ye men of Israel, take heed to yourselves what ye intend to do as touching these men. Right? Because our people always had issues with the preaching of the gospel of the Lord Yahweh Shai. For before these days rose up Judas, boasting himself to be somebody, to whom a number of men, about 400, joined themselves, who were slain, and all, as many as obeyed him, were scattered and brought to naught. And that's what this so-called civil rights movement does to our people till this day, man. You're not going to achieve nothing. All you're going to get is just empty promises, They put something on paper, but what they do in actuality is different. Or only time they want to, prove that they're doing something is when they, they want to, keep Jake on the hush-hush, to pacify Jake. That's why, they let certain cops go to jail, You know, what allowed the majority of them to get off. You know, so this system of oppression, you're right, Jake doesn't have the sense, the spiritual sense, to detach himself from it, man. He always want to think he can make it by struggling, you know, to get this credential, to get this education, to have this type of network opportunity. But he doesn't get it, you know. He doesn't understand that we're here in Babylon to serve captivity, and we need to have a spiritual awakening. All right, this so-called civil rights movement was never a spiritual awakening for our people. It's just for our people to dig their own graves. All right, they should be looking out to the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai, you know, to open up their minds, you know, to open up their graves. All right, when I read Ezekiel chapter 37, you know, about the valley of dry bones. All right, so our people need to wake up, man. Stop chasing after this empty glory, this empty dream of so-called civil rights, man. All right, and then it says in Acts chapter 5, verse 38, and now I say unto you, refrain from these men and let them alone, for if this counsel or this work be of men, it will come to naught. And that's what happened with the so-called civil rights movement, man. You know, our people get dogs sick in them, you know, the women beaten, you know, the house bombed and burnt, all right, all types of injuries and psychological damage they have to endure to this day, all right, loss of family members and all that. So our people need to wake up, man, you know, because struggling in Babylon for crumbs, which is not of the Lord, it's not going to make a difference in our lives, man. You know, we need to hold on to the gospel of the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai. And then verse 39 says, but if it be of the Most High, ye cannot overthrow it, lest haply ye be found even to fight against the Most High Yahweh Shema Shai, Shem Kodesh. And that's exactly what the men of the Lord are doing out of the highways and byways, preaching the gospel without fear, without intimidation, you know, without being timid. Because our people need to learn, you know, Yahweh Shai is the way out of all this madness. All right?
It was a barrage shots, and like I said, it was maybe 6 or 7 seconds. Boom, 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 boom. Students was hollering, yelling, and running. So by this time, I went into a slope right near the campus, where the front end of the campus, and I kneeled down. I got up to run, and I took one step. That's all I could remember. I took that one step, I got hit in the back. When I got hit in the back, this is when I got paralyzed. Students was tramping over me because they was afraid.
And I dropped to the ground immediately, instinctively. I dropped to the ground. And within 2 or 3 seconds, I began to hear rounds going past my ears. I felt my coat like it was somebody was trying to pull it off. You know, what it really was rounds hitting my coat. And then I got hit. Prior to being hit, I heard some people started yelling. In fact, I remember hearing somebody laugh just before we realized we were being shot at. We thought they were shooting in the air. It entered right here and just missed my spine. I didn't see much bleeding. I remember running, getting up and moving. I think the coat that I had on probably formed as a compressed maybe. I don't know. I had a large overcoat on. I remember asking him, I said, Joe, can you see? Am I just nicked? You know, I was hoping that I just got grazed, you know. And he said, no, look like, you know, there's a hole there, Jordan. I said, oh, golly, you know.
Yeah, and that's what's going to happen again. It's going to happen again, you know, so just look forward to more tensions, man, in Babylon. You know, when the economy starts to go down, the racial tension start to heat up, all right, more violence in the streets, more unemployment rate is going up, you know, political upheaval and all that madness. Yeah, so expect more violence in the streets of Babylon, man. All right, because Esau is pissed off that his kingdom is slipping away out of his hand and that he cannot maintain a solid grip. So he has to do something desperate, all right, to control the people. So it's going to push all type of false flag events, all right. So it's all spiritual, it's all parts of prophecy, all right. You just have to be patient. You have to suffer, diligently while you're doing this work. So this is the book of Luke chapter 10, verse 22. All things are delivered to me of my Father, and no man knoweth who the Son is but the Father. All right. So when the Lord Yahweh has a perfect knowledge of who Yahweh Shai is, and then it says, and who the Father is but the Son. So Yahweh Shai has a perfect knowledge of who Yahweh is. He has a perfect relationship. All right. The prophets have an inkling, all right, but they do not have the total knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the Lord. All right. Just like we have 100% truth of the gospel, the Lord Yahweh Shai has 100% truth of who Yahweh is. All right. So that's how tight the Lord Yahweh Shai and Yahweh are. Okay. And he to whom the Son will reveal him. All right. So that knowledge, the wisdom is just so much, it's so vast, it's so deep that we're not in that lot to have that type of knowledge, to have that volume or quality of knowledge. Okay. And then it says in verse 23, and he turned him unto his disciples and said privately, blessed are the eyes which see the things that ye see. All right. So that's the one thing I can need to understand, man. Once these prophecies start to come to pass, you should count yourself blessed. All right, that you've seen the words in the Holy Scriptures come to pass. You've seen all the violence and oppression. You've seen the angels show themselves in the heavens, even here on earth. You've seen the storms and the earthquakes. All right, you've seen the RFID chip. You see all the wars and rumors of wars taking place. And then, you know that your salvation is at hand. All right. You understand that the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai's word is faithful and true. And then in verse 24 it says, for I tell you that many prophets and kings have desired to see those things which ye see. All right. Because it did not happen in their lifetime. All right. Those prophecies did not take place. All right. They are written for the future. All right. That's why it's called prophecy. And have not seen them, and to hear those things which ye hear and have not heard them. All right. So that's how beautiful this gospel is, the gospel of Yahweh Shai. All right. So it's always good to have faith in the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai and stop striving for this empty glory, here in Babylon. So I'll get some more precepts here. So this is going to be from the book of 2 Timothy chapter 2, verses 3 and 5. And it says, therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Yahushua Mashiach. All right. So you got to stay in your lot. You got to, stick to the instructions. All right. Shouldn't be going about thinking about what you want to do on your own dime. You should pray to the Lord Yahweh Shai to guide you, to give you the instructions of life. All right. Verse 4, no man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life. And this massacre happened because Jake, was trying to go into a so-called bowling alley, trying to have a good time. And then they started to try to protest and all that stuff just because they want to go to Edomite's bowling alley, to do business. But Jake, they just don't get it, man. So that's what happens, man, when our people get drunk with Esau's system, and then they tell you, you're free, you can do this, you can do that. But if Esau doesn't want you in his establishment, go do your own thing. We're Israelites, we're the salt of the earth. With all the inventions we've put forth and that have been stolen from us, we shouldn't be ashamed, to have our own stuff. But hey, what really counts the most is the gospel of the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai. All right. So verse 4, 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 4, no man that worrieth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who had chosen him to be a soldier. All right, so all this so-called struggle for civil rights is not of the Lord. It's just madness. All right, it's just Babylon. It's just the Babylon juice. You know, and that's what these Amalekites like to do, man. You know, they form all these so-called organizations like NAACP. And then they have a spin-off like the SCLC. You know, with Jake drinking that juice. You know, and struggling and struggling and struggling. You know, with having the so-called puppets, you know, do their bidding. All right, so our people need to wake up, man, and stop, looking for so-called civil rights here in Babylon, man. You know, just hoping the Lord they are shy, you know, stick with the scriptures, all right, because that's where it really is. That's where the wealth is. That's where the freedom is, all right. The freedom is in the Lord how shy, all right. That's why the scripture talks about, you know, strive for the truth unto death, and the Lord our shy shall fight for you. All right, and the Lord Yahushua is one that can make you free, not Esau, right? So our people struggling, trying to make a way in Babylon is not going to amount to anything. All right, that he may please him who had chosen him to be a soldier. So you got to understand, you know, these struggles are unfruitful, man. The works of darkness, all right? So I played some more.
And we got onto the infirmary, and there was blood all over the place. I mean, people were lying around, yelling and screaming. And the poor nurse on duty, she was a mess. She, you know, I mean, she had never seen anything like that. It was worse than any combat situation. It was, let's put it this way, it was probably equivalent to a combat situation in war. The official count was 27 plus 3, actually 30. 30, 3 died, 27 injured.
I remember getting shot in my face and being spun around, and instinct said, you got to get out of here, you got to go for safety. And the only thing I could think of was get into the infirmary.
Just so happened, there was a trash can in front of me. I was on a pretty good coverage there, that trash can, see, but the trash can had some legs on it. And that's how I got shot in the hip. The bullet come through under the leg. Under the trash can, it caught me in the hip. And under the trash can, it caught me in the leg. If it wasn't for the trash can, I probably would have been dead. If I would have stood up, I would have been dead. But I had enough courage to stay there for at least 45 seconds after the shooting. And folks were running all across me, crying and shooting. There was some of them was crawling. And I realized they had ceased fire. That's when I got up and ran to the infirmary. When I got to the infirmary, my best friend Sam, which is dead now, the one that they killed, he was laying in the middle of the floor, just trying to grasp for air. And at that particular point, I didn't even know I was shot. See? I crossed my leg in the infirmary. I saw a little red spot on my pants. And I realized right then that I've been hit down there. And by sitting down, watching him in motion myself, when I stood up, reached back there, I had a big apple back there. I didn't realize I got shot in the hip neither, see. Got shot in the hip, the whole muscle was just like big as a big fist. And I realized I got shot in the hip, I got shot twice.
He took me to the school infirmary, and from there I laid on the floor on a mattress. At this time, Sam Hammond, we was laying head to head each other. And the last thing I can remember Sam said, they used to call me Big Dooley because I was playing football at this time. I was weighing about 260. And this is when Sam asked me, he said, Dooley, you think I'm going to live? I say, Sam, you're going to be all right, buddy. And next time I look over there, he was dead. I took my hand and put over his face like this to close his eyes because he died with his eyes open.
Yep. And that's one thing that people need to understand, man. You don't want to
This is when Sam...
You don't want to be in that type of situation, man. All right, so final precept, John chapter 6, verse 27. Labor not for the meat which perisheth, but for that meat which endureth unto everlasting life, which the Son of Man shall give unto you. For him hath the Father For him, had Yahweh the Father sealed. All right. So that's exactly what our people need to understand, man. You know, all this running for Congress, running for all these government positions, that's not gonna change the the plight of our people, man. It's just getting our people more attached to this system of what you call democracy. You know, so Babylon has a strong grip on our people, but the Lord Yahweh Shemashah is beginning to lose that grip through His Holy Spirit and in the Son Yahweh Shai. All right, that's why you have more camps out there pushing the vibration of who the Israelites are according to the Holy Scriptures, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right, so these are the last days we're living in, man. You know, you're gonna see more strange things happen. You know, those riots overseas. You know, they're gonna come here too. It's gonna start. You know, America is not exempt. You know, we're long overdue for a lot of chaos in this place. You know, it's not. It's all part of prophecy, man. You know, so the man of the Lord will have no parts of all these so-called protests. You know, for a living wage, for education, for funding, and all that stuff. We're just here to preach the gospel. You know, take a little minimum wage job and keep it moving. All right. So that's the point there. I can hope you've been edified. You could look more into this story as well as other stories. All right. Whatever resonates in your spirit. Lord Yahweh Shemash, I want you to look into. So Shalom Akim.